Welcome back. Girls Right Now teams up with STAR's Citywide Girls Initiative for National Voter Registration Day. Committed to empowering eligible voters, this collaboration provides essential tools and resources to enhance youth engagement in the upcoming election. Vahni Kurra, Senior Community and Marketing Coordinator for Girls Right Now, joins me to discuss this initiative and its impact on fostering civic involvement among the youth. Vahni, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the collaboration between Girls Right Now and STAR's Citywide Girls Initiative?
Yeah, definitely. So, STAR's Citywide Girls Initiative is a collaboration of 10 New York City nonprofits across all 5 boroughs that serve young women and gender expansive youth. So we do programs such as after-school sports programs, creative writing and arts programs, and leadership. Girls Right Now is one of the founding members of that group, so we have been working with them for 10 years. And we really wanted to bring all of these amazing organizations together, really with the goal of making sure that every young person who is eligible to vote is registered this year. So we put together an event called Storytelling for Change. It is on September 19th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Girls Right Now offices in Midtown Manhattan. And it's really a chance for all of these organizations to come together with their young people, encourage them to bring their friends, their family, their communities together for voter registration education. We'll also play some really fun games and hopefully show people that voting is really fun and it's really important. We also put together a student ambassador program with students from all of these organizations tackling their own voter registration projects. So we have a Girls Right Now student who's actually in college in Minnesota who's doing a visual essay about voter participation at Girls Right Now that will hopefully show participants, who are their peers who are voting, encouraging them to vote as well. We also have a student doing a series of social media posts, so doing a full campaign to reach young voters across different platforms. We have a student from Groundswell, which is another one of our organizations in STARS, who is putting together a voter registration drive in collaboration with student organizations at Brooklyn College. And we also have a student who is in high school on Long Island, who is doing a voter registration drive at her homecoming game. So yeah, lots of different things that people are doing, and all of it with the same goal to really make sure that we're engaging everyone we know to vote this year.
Now, I want to talk about storytelling for change. Can you just tell me a little bit more behind, just the meaning behind that?
Yeah, definitely. So as a writing and mentoring organization, everything we do at Girls Right Now comes down to the idea that if you can write, you can do anything. If you can tell your story, you can do anything. So when we started putting together this event for National Voter Registration Day, we thought we wanted to ask people, what is your voter story? Why is it personally important to you to vote? And we know that many people have many different answers to that question. So we really wanted to engage the widest possible variety of answers to that question. So our speaker lineup for the event, it includes people who are in politics. So New York City Council member Gail Brewer being one of them. We have political advocates. But we also have people who are not involved in politics for their job, but just are really passionate about people having a voice and making sure that it's heard. So we have journalists, we have podcast hosts, we have Grace Bastidas, who is the first editor of color-in-chief at Parents Magazine, people who've come to voting in many, many different ways, and just telling their story, because I think also part of the barrier to voting is that some people don't know how to vote, but also some people feel intimidated by it. And we want to show that absolutely everybody who is eligible to vote should vote, and there are very easy ways to do it.
Now, I also want to highlight, that Girls Right Now may have this unique responsibility, that we're also kind of encouraging young women and girls and gender expansive youth to make their voice heard, especially right now. Can you talk about the importance of not just dealing with young people in general, but people who may come from marginalized backgrounds, and why it's important that they have their voice heard?
Yeah, definitely. So Girls Right Now serves youth aged 14 to 24, so that's high school through college, but we also have mentors who are older than that. We serve primarily people of color, people from under-resourced communities, And I think it's really important for everybody to have a voice, especially people who've been systematically suppressed or denied those rights or those abilities to express their opinions. And voting is really one of the easiest ways for people to do that. It is completely free. There are many programs, such as the event we're having, that are getting people to express their opinion. And it's important because voting affects all of us. You know, the policies, whether they're at the national level or the local, they affect everything from the day that your trash is picked up to our policies for the environment and where we're going as a country together. So we really want people to have a say in that. We want people to know that voting is also just the first step. There are many things outside of voting that people can do, but we're going to start there and make sure that we can all do this together.
Now, I think historically, almost every generation of young people have been very present and vocal about, you know, what they want to see for their future. But many places have found that they're not as present, you know, at the polls. You know, what could be the disconnect as to why they may be vocal online or, you know, in their communities, but aren't going out to vote?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's actually really interesting because 2020 saw a historic rise in the number of young voters. Nearly half of all young voters who were eligible to vote ended up going to the polls and voting. And a lot of people were really excited by that. In 2022, though, in the midterms, there was still a pretty high turnout, but it was less than the 2018 midterms. And I think there's probably a lot of reasons that people can give for that. And there's a lot of reasons why, you know, the other half of young people probably aren't voting. But I think it's all a matter of getting people to, again, see why it's personally important to them. And I think a lot of young people feel frustration about their governments. They might not know exactly how they can make an impact. You know, with social media especially, they're seeing so many news stories, they have access to so much information, and it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like, what can I do as just one person? So the more that we can show people, you know, that voting is one of the easiest things you can do as an individual to impact those things that you're passionate about, I think we'll see more young people voting if we can do that. And I think, again, education is a huge part of it. Not everybody has the opportunity to register to vote when they're in school. So they might leave high school, they might not go to college, they might not have things like voter registration drives or civic education. So that's a really big part of it. And I think it also depends on who you know. If you see other people you know voting, if you and your friends make a plan to go to the polls together, I think you're a lot more likely to vote. So I think the more that we can show young people, like, this is a communal effort, this is something we can do together, it's something you can do with your friends and your family, we'll probably see more people voting.
Now, I think now, probably more than ever, we've seen a rise of misinformation specifically towards, you know, politics and voting, and what you're allowed to do and what you can't do. How can young people, especially people who've probably never voted before, or this may be their first time voting, how can they navigate that and figure out where they can go to learn legit, actual information?
Definitely. So I think finding organizations you trust and authority people that you trust, so whether that's teachers that you can talk to, organizations like Girls Right Now, like National Voter Registration Day, Rock the Vote, etc., finding those websites where there is reliable information. Also going straight to the source. Everybody can go to their local Board of Elections, either in person, you can call them, you can go online. And finding this information for yourself. I think it's really empowering to be able to say, I did this research, I have this information, I can now bring it to my family members, I can bring it to other people and show them how to vote. I think that is really an exciting thing, and it's something I'm personally really excited about for our student ambassadors who are doing the national voter registration drives, who are doing the social media graphics, to take this information and empower other people with it.
And, you know, for the young people that are feeling frustrated, many have said, you know, they don't want to vote or they don't want anything to do it. You know, how can they kind of channel that frustration into something a little bit more positive?
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things that is really special about National Voter Registration Day is it's a nonpartisan event. So no matter what your personal politics are, the idea is that every person who is eligible should have the right to freely exercise their right to vote. And so thinking of it as not just a right, but a real responsibility. You know, we were talking a little bit earlier about marginalized groups. You know, when you think about something like the Voting Rights Act of 1965, that was only about 60 years ago. There are people who we know in our lives who were alive and voting before that moment in time. We know that there are so many restrictions. If you come from a family of immigrants like I do, or if you are an immigrant yourself, you likely know a lot of people who have lived and worked and contributed to US society, to your local communities for years and don't have the right to vote. And I think if you do have the right to vote, if you are a US citizen, if you are over 18, you can think about voting really as a way to not just represent yourself, but also represent the interests of your community and for those people who don't have the ability to exercise their right to vote.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It was amazing, and I agree 100%. You know, now for people watching, or for any young people out there, where can they go to learn more about this event, take part in it, and kind of get encouraged to get out there and vote?
Yeah, definitely. Well, so one, I would highly recommend that people come to our event on the 19th. Like I said, we're going to have these really inspiring speakers. We're going to also do some writing prompts and get people to really think about, why is it important to me that I have a voice in politics? Why is it important to me that I'm voting? We're going to share that with each other. We're going to play some games. There will also be snacks, so other motivations to come. So we really do want people to come to that event. But also, that event's September 19th. Here in New York, you can register to vote up to October 26th. And then after that date, we want people to encourage people in their communities to actually go to the polls now that they've registered. So you can early vote prior to November 5th. You can request a mail-in ballot if you won't be able to physically go to the polls. So there's a lot of ways people can get involved, and we really want to make sure that every step of the way people are encouraging people in their communities to vote. And also, I did want to mention, in addition to the presidential election that's happening, there are a lot of down ballot votes. So what that means is civil judges, Supreme Court judges, US Senate, State Senate, House of Representatives, all of those elections are critical and they impact us on our day-to-day lives. So we also want people to be paying attention to that.
Thank you so much for saying that. I agree 100%. It's something that I think a lot of people, if they're not in that business, are guilty of not paying attention to. So I want to thank you for that. And also just in general, thank you so much for stopping by again to kind of educate our community, encourage young people to get out there and vote. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
The Girls Right Now National Voter Registration Day event will be taking place this week on Thursday, September 19th. Please go to their website, which is on your screen below, to find out more information about the event. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you miss any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.